There's a lot of research on the subject of deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is basically the way in which you develop expertise at anything. It's different from just doing something over and over and over again. You can't just do something over and over again and expect to get brilliant or world class at it. Malcolm Gladwell in the book Outliers talked about the 10,000 hour rule. The 10,000 hour rule came from the research on deliberate practice, but there's no actual rule that you can do something for 10,000 hours and become absolutely amazing at it. In fact, there's a lot of research that shows that the more you do something, you may actually get worse at it. For example, doctors who have been doctors for 25 years are usually worse than doctors who have only been doctors for 5, because your skill fades over time unless you're specifically seeking to develop new and valuable skills. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the most interesting aspect of how to actually do deliberate practice, because what the research says is absolutely amazing. Basically, what the research shows is our brains are very pliable. So is our biology. If you start running, for example, and you get coaching and you've got a specific goal that you're trying to accomplish, you can change your body in many ways. Obviously, you can't make yourself 10 feet tall, but you can change your brain, you can change your body, and you can change your potential. That's what the research on deliberate practice shows. You need specific goals. You need a specific version of your future self that has the skills, abilities, and experiences that you want to have. And then you need to go through a training process. Usually what that means is you have mentoring, coaching from people who are already at that level or who know how to help you get to that level. And you go through a process of learning, developing, and unlearning a lot of your old habits. You can develop expert level skills in pretty much anything you want. I did it as a writer. You can do it in any goal you have. You can do it when it comes to money. But so there's a few aspects of deliberate practice that are kind of essential. First off, you need specific goals. You need specific help and coaching and mentoring from people who are already at the level you want. You need to then practice it every single day. Even though it's not 10,000 hours, you do need a various amount of time in that thing. You need to put time consistently towards that. You need lots of recovery. But there's one aspect of deliberate practice that is most surprising to me, and it's not talked about very much. And it's actually, according to Anders Ericsson, the person who's done all this research over the last 30 years, he wrote about in his book, Peak. He said that this is probably the most important aspect of deliberate practice, and it's very much underutilized. And that's literally watching expert performers at the top level. So for example, if you're someone who wants to get very good at bowling, going bowling is not actually the most important aspect of deliberate practice. Yes, you need to bowl probably a lot of games a week and get coaching and maybe even watch yourself, film yourself and watch yourself. But you need to literally watch in slow motion the pros who are at the best level. You need to study their games. If you're a football player, you need to study those at the top. You also do need to watch yourself and probably from someone who's a coach or a mentor, get feedback on your own performance. But it's actually studying and watching those at the top level do their thing. And that's when you're alone. You're alone. You're studying the actual craft. I remember when I first started blogging, I wanted to write blog posts that were read by millions and millions of people. So what I did is I ultimately studied the blog posts that I had seen that had been read by millions and millions of people. I also invested in education. I took online courses that taught me how to write and things like that. So whatever skill you have, you need to invest in education, invest in mentoring, actually develop the knowledge and skills. Dan Sullivan actually has a concept. He calls it the 4 C's formula. He says whenever you have a goal, you need to go through the whole process of the 4 C's. The first step is literally committing to that goal, whatever it is, committing to the outcome, committing to whatever you're trying to accomplish. Once you've fully committed, then you go through a process of courage, because you're committing to something that's above your current level of capability and your current level of confidence. So it takes some steps of courage. You've got to commit to a higher level, and then you go through a process of courage, learning, development. And as you do that, you ultimately develop new capabilities, new confidence, and then you have a new level to jump off of. So it's a very amazing learning process. Once you get to that new level, ultimately you do have to continue to set new goals. There's something else that's really important here as you're striving for higher level goals, and that's what Dan Sullivan calls the gap and the gain. I recommend this book over and over and over again because this is a high achiever's guide to happiness. And by the way, down below is a link to the free ebook from Dan Sullivan. But one of the things when you're striving for big goals is that you're always measuring yourself, usually if you're a high performer, against your ideals, against where you want to be, and that puts you in what Dan calls the gap. Or you're measuring yourself against other people. People are unhappy because they're incorrectly measuring themselves. The only normal, logical, and healthy way you can measure yourself is against your former self, against where you were before. So that's when you're in the game, as Dan would explain. So as you're striving and making progress towards future goals, as you're committing to bigger goals, as you're going through that courage cycle, as you're developing new capability and confidence, then what you want to do is ultimately measure yourself against where you were before, maybe 3, 6, 12 months, and recognize and appreciate the growth. As Alain de Botton would say, if you're not embarrassed by who you were 12 months ago, you didn't learn enough. It's great to measure yourself against your former self because you can see the growth. That actually then gives you more confidence. There's lots of research in psychology that shows that confidence is actually the byproduct of former experience. Confidence doesn't necessarily lead to success. It's actually successful behavior that leads to confidence. As you take time to reflect on your former wins, take time to reflect on your former performance and appreciate your growth, appreciate the gap and the distance, appreciate the gains, I should say, and the distance between your current and your former self. That gives you more excitement and more commitment and more confidence to push towards bigger goals. So that's basically the sum of it. It's even talked about in the book, The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle, that those who become high performers, they stare at and they watch intensely those at the level of where they want to go. Whatever discipline you want to be in. If you want to be an amazing entrepreneur, you need to study and watch what they do. If you want to develop tennis skills, watch Roger Federer. Like seriously, watch over and over and over again. That is from the researcher's standpoint, the most crucial aspect of deliberate practice is intimately and intensely and quietly studying and watching the performance of those at the highest level, and also then watching your own performance, accurately measuring it, getting coaching. Tom Brady, as an example, is always watching film. And so that's how you do it. Study what is working at the highest level and study it intensely and watch those who are performing at the highest level. And our brains are very adaptive. We've got mirror neurons. We adapt ourselves and our mindset and our identity based on what we pay attention to. Your input shapes your outlook. And so if you're constantly just watching people performing at your own level or below, you're not actually training your brain to change. That is one of the reasons why the 10,000 hour rule doesn't work, is because you could do something over and over and over again, but you might be actually training yourself doing it wrong. You could actually do it, you could practice incorrectly for 10,000 hours, which is why you need to study those who are at the highest level, so that then when you go and apply it and test it and try it, then your practice is ultimately leading to different results, different habits, different muscle memory. Just doing something over and over again. I could write 10,000 blog posts as an example, but if I'm not actually studying how to write better blog posts, I might write 10,000 blog posts that are no good. And so that's why you need to consistently study those who are succeeding at the highest level. That's it. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? What is your future self? What is the thing that you want to deliberately practice? Whatever it is, how much time are you spending alone on a weekly basis studying those who are succeeding at the highest level in that domain, in that discipline? That'll determine how much deliberate practice you're engaging in and how much skill you're actually developing. Study it closely. Watch the film or study the words. Whatever it looks like in the quiet privacy of you studying the work of those at the top. That's the key. Talk to you soon. Down below, you can get access to my free 30-day Future Self course. And on this page, you can get access to more of my free YouTube videos. Have an amazing day.